This video is about the most important new features in ArchiFrame 2020. I will go through improvements in the Truss tool, BIMx compatibility, plank tools and machinings, element tools, and listings. For a full list of all updates, please check the PDF in the video description. Before going into these improved features, I will just mention that an online license for ArchiFrame is now mandatory for Archicad 24 and later versions. To activate your license, open the ArchiFrame settings, select the online license, and then open the license settings. Here, you can input your username and password and manage your licenses. Now let's move on to ArchiFrame's improved functionalities. The most significant update is the new Truss tool, which allows you to adjust the shape of the truss parametrically. In the old version of ArchiFrame, you could only create a truss by picking its shape from a fill. The new tool allows you to create trusses more quickly, and seeing the truss parameters numerically also makes it easier to avoid errors compared to the fill method. I'll quickly go through the process of creating trusses for this house. First, I need to open the floor plan view and define a placement area for the trusses. This area is basically just a rectangle, and it determines the area where the trusses will be placed. Then I need to define basic settings for the trusses. I'll pick Archicad roofs to serve as a basis for the truss shape. I will also pick the walls that will support the trusses. In addition, I can pick a fill or other object where trusses should not be placed. In this case, I will pick a fill surrounding a chimney in order to avoid creating a truss that intersects with the chimney. In the truss menu, I can also define other settings such as truss type, as well as truss spacing and thickness. Finally, in the Edit Truss Shape window, I can define the shape of the truss in more detail parametrically. I'll offset the truss downwards from the Archicad roof and make a few other changes. And here's the result. In 3D, the trusses are represented through simple outlines. In a section view of one of the trusses, you can see that the truss aligns nicely with the shape of the Archicad roof. Now that my truss is complete, I can create a truss drawing with one click. A more detailed truss tutorial video will be coming up later this fall. Until then, please see the instruction manual for more guidance on how to create a truss. Another useful update is ArchiFrame's improved compatibility with BIMx files. As you might know, BIMx is a file format that allows others to view your models and drawings in an intuitive way online or on a mobile device. The benefit is that stakeholders, such as clients or construction workers, can view your model without the Archicad application. With the new version of ArchiFrame, it is easier to create 3D diagrams where element and plank IDs are visible. Workers on site can quickly consult the diagrams to determine where each element or plank belongs. Specifically, the new version of ArchiFrame improves the display of IDs in 3 ways. First of all, by default, element IDs are now displayed on the inner and outer surface of the final wall or floor structure. In the older version, IDs were shown on each surface of the core layer, which meant that they could easily get hidden behind the cladding or boarding. Secondly, in the plank or element settings, you can mirror the IDs in 3D so that they are legible when viewing the building from outside in the 3D view. Thirdly, in plank or element settings, you can now set the material of the IDs in 3D. This ensures that the IDs are visible in the BIMx model. For a complete tutorial on how to turn your ArchiFrame model into a BIMx file, please see the BIMx video. Then let's move on to the updates on plank tools and machinings. The first significant improvement here is that ArchiFrame now displays grooves with rounded corners instead of completely sharp corners. I will demonstrate this simply by using this smaller plank to create a groove on the front surface of the larger plank. I will select normal as my groove type. The ability to model rounded grooves is important because milling machines in real life also create rounded rather than rectangular grooves. Therefore, having rounded grooves in your ArchiFrame model helps you anticipate how the milling machine will actually create the groove. This helps to avoid unexpected errors. The second update relating to planks is that the dovetail tenon and beam shoe joint menu has been improved. First, the menu contains a new parameter, the housing depth. To demo this, I have here several planks with tenon and mortise joints and a value of 20 for the housing depth. So here you can see the inside of the joint. Then I'll just delete the machinings for the right hand side plank and create a new joint where the housing depth is 10 instead of 20. So here you can see what difference it makes. If I hide the vertical post, you can see that the change in the housing depth did not affect the length of the tenon. The second improvement in the special planks menu is that it is now possible to save presets for joints. This simply means that by clicking the plus button on the right, you can save all the values in the different settings parameters. For example, I have saved 2 presets for a tenon and mortise joint. I'll apply the first preset to the 2 planks in the 3D view. So here you can see the result. Next, I'll go through a few improvements relating to element settings. First of all, the nailings menu has been expanded and now includes an option to set a minimum distance between a nailing and a drill or groove, and 2 different options that allow you to move the nailing away from the center of the plank. The picture on the left shows the default setting where all the nails are in the middle of the plank. On the right hand side picture, the nails have been moved closer to the right edge of the plank. Another improvement in ArchiFrame's element settings is that there is a new wall-to-floor joint top. This joint affects the framing layer of the wall, creating a kind of shelf for the floor to rest on. The tool creates grooves in the vertical planks of the framing and also adds a horizontal reinforcing plank. Lastly, also note that the element options now include subpanes, allowing you to hide settings that you are not currently using. This makes the window smaller and more convenient to use. Finally, let's look at ArchiFrame's improved listings. It is now possible to create an Archicad schedule that contains information on ArchiFrame materials and machinings. If you select an ArchiFrame object and open its settings, then under Calculations, you can see 2 new parameters relating to machinings, material name and machinings text. ArchiFrame sets values for these parameters automatically for new objects, but for existing ones, the new parameters are empty. To update these parameters for existing objects, open the object settings and click OK. If you then reopen the settings, ArchiFrame will have automatically added the correct material name and machinings text for your objects. Now I'll show you how to include these parameters in a schedule. I have here a schedule which includes all ArchiFrame plank objects that do not belong to projections. I have also added basic content into the schedule, including element ID and quantity. Now I'll add more parameters from the Library Part Parameters menu. Here, I'll select the ArchiFrame library, and from there, the ArchiFrame plank. So now I can add a few plank parameters to my schedule. First of all, the height, then the material name and the machining's text, which I mentioned earlier, and then the material width. Now I'll just rearrange the order of these parameters a little bit. And also add the 3D front view parameter. Then I'll save the schedule and preview it in Archicad. And lastly, I will export the schedule to Excel, where I can adjust the columns to make it more legible. A final update relating to listings is that ArchiFrame's own lists in the element drawings are now compatible with Excel. This is a new feature for Mac users.